to something else, another spiritual tool. The tarot. I know a lot of you know about the tarot. Let me tell you something about the tarot. It is one of the greatest mental strengthening tools there is. You want to build your intuition and you want to program? Learn the tarot. Because you're going to have to do a lot of intuiting when you read the tarot. When you read the tarot, because you're going to have to trust, and you're going to have to just say, you're going to have to just do, and you're going to have to leave this mind behind. So when you're doing the tarot, you're strengthening your intuitive muscles. That's its biggest value. That's its biggest value. And I learned the tarot, and then one day, Spirit says, hey, I was doing some shows, and I just started, I said, I'm going to just do readings. I had no tarot deck. I said, I'm going to trust Spirit, I'm just going to start doing. And then I just started doing readings for people without the tarot, based on what they wanted to know about. And I used to do readings here on the live. And then I no longer needed the tarot. Hey, I could just ask them questions and get Spirit to give me the answers. Work my intuition. Started with the tarot. That's where I started. That's what really started to give it to me. Then I went one step further. And many of you here have seen that, because I've done it so many times here on the live. And then I moved it to the next level. I said, you don't have to say a word. You can sit in front of me. You don't have to say a word. And I start talking. Because your spirit knows and telepathically communicates with me on what it is that I need to say to you. And so when you're in that wavelength, you cannot hesitate. You cannot have doubt, or it all shuts down. You have to be, comes out of your mouth. No doubt. It comes out of it, whatever that person needs to hear. And then Spirit, to really, really verify, will give you information about the person that they need, or you'll say or mention something, and they'll go, yeah, that's true, that happened, blah, 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 blah. But you can have no fear, and you just let it flow. Right? Energy flow? You just let it flow out. You just let it flow. And so every once in a while, I've had a couple of times where people go, they didn't like what they heard. Or they said, oh, that can't be. And I go, I only tell you the information that is being streamed by your spirit. And I've even had one person at the show that got up, a couple of weeks later, they call me. Papa G, you were right. I give her, but you were right, because XYZ happened. I go, thank you for letting me know, and thanking you for being brave enough and not just going off and let your ego take control. But you can get there. This is a capability of every single human being. If you got a soul and you got a spirit, you're capable. You're capable. You just have to get to the point where you can trust yourself and trust your spirit. So the tarot, on a mental level, does so many things. It causes you to have to your intuition is strengthened, but also on a mental level, it causes you to use parts of your mind that you normally don't use. It causes you to use certain parts of your mind that you normally don't use. So don't listen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rashika. Don't listen to these people who are usually very, very conditioned in their minds by other people and books that they read and so-called holy books. Don't listen to these people. You're not. One of the things I do not predict. If you notice, I'll talk about someone's spiritual process, but I do not do predictions. Predictions don't help anybody. As a matter of fact, you could end up just damaging your reputation. Because predictions, let me tell you something. If anybody could truly predict anything, somebody says, I can predict your future. You tell them, what did I do a minute ago? And what am I going to do 2 minutes from now? And if they can't predict it, by the way, nobody can. You notice how predictions, they're usually down the line. Oh, in 6 months, a year from now, they can predict that. But they never predict what you're going to do in the next 5 minutes, do they? Exactly. Think about it. And you'll get them wrapped up quite nicely. Am I going to get married in the next 2 years? I don't know. Aren't you the one making the decisions in your life? You asking me? You know? Am I going to meet the one next year? I don't know. Are you going to do the things that you need to do to meet the right one next year? You see how disempowering that kind of... So people go, oh, I mean, when I used to do readings here, yeah, if somebody come in and ask me, oh, am I going to end up in the United States? And am I going to am I going to go here? I go, no, that's not what I do readings on, because it's easy to just go anywhere, even on this app, anywhere, and get someone else to tell you that. And half the time, it ain't going to happen. Because you might make a choice 5 minutes after that reading that sets you off on another timeline. Even our galactic brethren who have high levels of consciousness and don't have the nonsense preventing our evolution going on down here happening, it's not happening with them. Even they would dare not go through the predict what humanity's going to do. So, no. Predictions are a bunch of nonsense. Sometimes they come true, sometimes they don't. No, you don't always get readings for predictions. People get readings to find out what direction, how they should deal with something, maybe suggested direction to be able to go. And even then, it's recommendation that gives them clarity. That's what a spiritual reading should do. It should give you a little clarity. And so remember, when I was doing readings, and I'm doing readings, I'm not doing readings to predict anything. I'm doing a reading because Spirit communicates through me to speak to another, to add clarity, or to give suggestions on a path to go on that the person is to consider. That the person is to consider, not to be told what to do. So the readings are not Papa Jesus readings. Some people will tell you they can predict. That's some people. But those kinds of readers you should stay away from. Hey, sexy everyday. Me too. And now they won't really talk to me anymore. Yeah, and can I tell you something? Count your blessings. Really, it might seem real painful sometimes. Because you want to connect back to those people. But if it's been a long, long time, sometimes the way you remember the past is not the way it really was. And count your blessings, because those people back in your life, they're only going to come back as anchors. They'll pull you right back to where you were. It's better to build new relationships with people who are going to pull you to where you need to be and want to be and desire to be. Because it is they who are at a certain place that know how to get there. That is why the people who you hang around with are so important. The rule is 5. You are the 5 people you hang around with all of the time. But you can choose your peer group. So you choose people to hang around with who are where you want to be. And watch and see how quickly you get there. That is the importance of peer groups. So, and you connect with them. That's why it was one of my biggest allies. I always found people who were where I wanted to be. And I connected to them. Now, they didn't have to be my immediate friends. It could be a teacher, a mentor. I connected to them if they had the avenue for that. And before I knew it, because of the proximity in human beings is very important. Proximity is actually closeness. Physical is important. Right? But you can have proximity. And the next level of proximity is to be connected to a person where you're talking to them regularly, where you're learning from them regularly, and that can get you to where you want to go to. But if you go back to those people who are where you were, you're likely going to go right back, because it is much easier if you're here and someone's here. It is much easier for you to drop down to their level than it is for them to come up to yours. Yeah. So I just talked about the tarot and how it mentally helps to strengthen you, and how it's one of the best tools for intuition. The tarot. If you learn that, because you have to use so many parts of your mind. You have to use imagination in the tarot. You have to be able to build a picture. All of a sudden, the magical side of you is activated when you use the tarot. You have to use intuition, the side of you that is using the intelligence of the heart and the intelligence of the stomach becomes activated. It has to be involved for the tarot. So the tarot is a very powerful tool for those reasons. And one of the biggest things you're told if you're in these particular organizations is to stay away from that. Just like they tell you to stay away from the ancestral stuff, but then you go in their book and you see it all there. Astrology, all there. Right? All there. In the book of Job, God told Job, if you do not know, and the word he used is translated from Hebrew as meaning astrology. If you do not know the stars, you don't know yourself. So to know that stuff, that's why numerology is great. It's another spiritual tool, because you're using the power of numbers, and we live in a mathematical universe. When I say power of numbers, I'm not talking about the math you learned in school that really messed with your head. Not that. When you look at your numerology, I'll go with numerology because that's what I deal with. And you go and you look at your soul's urge, your heart's desire for this life. It tells you what your heart wants. You look at your numbers. You look at your tendencies. It tells you all of that. And it tells you the things that you're strong at, so that you can work on those things. And once you know that, you know your plan written in the magic of numbers. Why numbers? Because they can't be corrupted. Numbers are pure in their own right. There's no corrupting numbers. None whatsoever. That's why I always say repeating numbers, and I never say angel numbers, because it's got nothing to do with angels. And usually when they talk angel numbers, they're talking about the angels they're talking about are the fallen beings masquerading as angels in the lower fifth dimensions, coming to you at the drop of a hat. True angels do not interfere with your affairs. But the fallen ones, you can call on them whenever you want. You cannot call on true angels. They do not come. It has to be something that is arranged before you're born, or a special situation in life. And you see them for that second and they're gone. You never see them again. You can't call them back and talk to them and get them to help you, heal you, protect you. None of that. Those are the fallen beings. Beware of them. Oh, good question. Do we use tarot ourselves or just get readings? No, the tarot is for you to learn and use. And so you don't have to read. See the beautiful thing about the tarot, Sexy Everyday? You don't have to read for people. You could use the tarot. You can use the tarot to read for what you want to see happen for the day. You can learn the tarot to use the tarot to see what to do in a certain situation. You can use it just for yourself. I used it to do that and to read for people, because reading for people put me in a situation where I had to be vulnerable is not the word, where I had to trust myself, where I had to trust, because when you're telling somebody something, you got to have trust, because that person has the ability to come back and say, you know what, all that shit was wrong. You know, so you have to put yourself in a position where the trust you have in yourself is really tested, so that you know that your intuition is getting on point. Now, you could do that reading tarot for yourself. You got a situation, you read tarot, you get messages, and then you act according to that, and then you see the results of those actions, and that's proof to you that you're getting the tarot. Your intuition is on point and all of that. And if you're using yourself and some things go wrong, do not judge it. Do not use the word right and wrong. Just say, I'm working on my intuition, so I'm learning. Okay? It's like you just don't start using it and thinking you're going to be, no, you keep using it. You don't judge any of it. You just keep using it. It is the practice. You must be used to just falling in love with the practice, not results. The ironic part is you cannot fall in love with results. You just keep practicing, and then you'll start seeing a difference from when you started to a certain point in your continued practice. There are, user 19, there are true angels and there are fallen angels. There's the true Archangel Michael, which does not interfere in human affairs, and then there's a fallen one. That one that you can call on left and right all the way, that the New Age calls on all the time, that's a fallen being. That is not the true Archangel Michael. Oh, can the same be said with the natal chart? Yes, Nathan. The same can be said with your natal chart. Absolutely. I just call them fallen angels. Are the fallen angels demons? That's a good question. In my experiences in working on different levels of existence, I've learned that demons, for the most part, don't really deal with humanity directly. See, we call everything demon. If we think it's bad, we call everything demons. Demons are highly evolved beings on the negative side of the spectrum. If you see something in your house, it ain't a demon. They don't deal with the lower side of things. There are many beings that are between us and demons, but we call all the things, everything, demons. Most demons don't interact with people at all directly. There are many, many minions and many, many spirits and all that below that you see. But many people call them demons. Most demons you will never, ever, ever, ever see. You're seeing something else. How can we learn all this stuff? You have to have a thirst for knowledge. You can read, there are many, many books. I say start off with books about your own self, about your own books that teach you about your self-development. You're looking at over, I would say, 50 years of learning. I was born in Costa Rica, as some of you know. And I was in the church then because my grandparents were Christians. And I was also spiritual. Because over there, and it exists many places in the world. Some of you, particularly like places from Africa where spirituality is, there's no question. It's not like you grow up, but you are very well aware of things that are beyond the physical. In the West, it is not so easy for a Westerner because everything is physical. In the West, and that's I'm not talking about everybody, okay? This is a general statement. Not talking about everybody, please. In the West, the general motto is if I can't see, touch, feel, hear, smell, or taste it, it doesn't exist. In other places, Africa, the Caribbean, indigenous cultures, right? And indigenous cultures are all over the place. But people that are westernized tend to only deal with the stuff that's physical. Their whole spiritual side is shut down. In places like the Caribbean, Africa, certain places in Asia, certain places in mainly Eastern Europe, they dance with the physical and the spiritual every day. It's no big deal. And so this is how I grew up. And it's funny because over there in Costa Rica where I grew up, people were both spiritual and religious. So if they were religious, they were definitely also spiritual. They knew the power of plants. They knew about entities. They knew about all kinds of stuff. Magical things. Good and bad. So I grew up in that. So I learned a lot there. Then when I came to the United States, I was an average reader. I came here and I could read in Spanish. My first language is Spanish. And I was actually dropped a grade down even though my mathematics was well advanced. All of that. Because Costa Rica has one of the greatest educational systems in the world. Greater than Japan. Greater than most countries in Europe. It's like it has one of the top three countries literacy rate. Costa Rica. Its educational system is only rivaled by those in the Scandinavian countries. Higher education than Japan. Yes, that little country down there. So when I came here, I learned to read in English like in 1 year. And so I was an avid reader. And it's not about which books to read. You have to have a thirst for knowledge. Then the knowledge shows up. Oh, did you finish the book last night? Fantastic. Tell us about it. How was it? So you have to have a thirst for knowledge. Really want to read. You really, really want to learn. And then everything shows up, will come to you. That's how knowledge works. I would start off, Nathan just mentioned the book. This is a book. Its subtitle is Defy the Taboo Against Finding Out Who You Are. I recommend that as a first book to start with. Yeah. By the way, Nathan, if you remind me, so one of the things he did, he's a reader, Nathan there, and one of the things he studied was African spirituality. Now, spirituality doesn't have any nationality behind it, right? It's there, but the way people practice spirituality in Africa is very concrete. Everything is related to the physical in a very concrete way. Nature is the teacher. If you really want to find out about that kind of spirituality, read about Ubuntu. Right? One of the great teachers there, I forget his name, Joshua Mapanga. Read his book. And he was talking about the spirit of Ubuntu, and he mentioned one aspect of it. He goes, we believe in God, but not in the same way as they do in the West. We believe that if you're hungry and a meal comes to you, if you're hungry, you need to eat right there on that spot, at the spot, that food that is nourishing you, that's God. That friend who comes to get you out of a tight spot, who comes to help you, at that moment, he's God. You see, so it's a lot more sensible when you think about things in that way. I'm going to talk about one little aspect. Much more sensible, much more concrete, much more relatable. And I know there are many aspects there, but I think you did say that a while back. It was you. Because I did talk about Credo Mutwa as well as a great guy. I did talk about, and I remember somebody saying they come from that. Oh, I forgot. Okay. So, spirituality is something that it's interesting. It's interesting to study how different cultures take it in, and it makes it much more easier. When you remove religion from spirituality, it makes it much more easier to really get, because spirituality actually makes more sense, right? And everyone's spiritual. I know some people say, I hear this sometimes, oh, I wasn't spiritual this week, or I wasn't spiritual back then. I said, there's no such thing. Did you forget not to breathe last week? Did breathing happen? Absolutely, it happened. You are a spiritual being having a physical experience. That's it. And it just so happens that the word spiritual, so if you've heard this before, but I'm going to say it because it's might be new to one or two people here. If it's new to one or two people, then it needs to be said. Spirituality comes from the Latin word spiritus, which means the breath of life, which is why many of you are gravitating to spirituality. See, the breath of life. It's the word spiritus, from which the word spirituality comes from. So that's why I said earlier, did you forget to breathe last week? Maybe you did, but did it happen? Yes. And just like the breath happened from your nostrils, inhaling and exhaling, spirituality also happens, because they go hand in hand. So, yeah. Also, to just hit a little bit on that question, how do we learn this stuff? Is it books we read, experiences, books? But a lot of times we carry things within us that shield us and keep us away from this knowledge. And when you start clearing that stuff away energetically, then all of a sudden, things start happening. Because also, a lot of that knowledge is sitting within you. It just needs to be teased out, believe it or not. You come here with a lot of knowledge already. So when you do things like, now I'm going back to some of the things I said that many of you will be familiar with. The most important thing you can do when it comes to the knowledge that you need is to be 100% one with your ancestors. They must walk with you at your side. Because your ancestors are in you and are you at the same time. And they come and they've been here from the very beginning. Some of you have ancestors that are before Earth. So everything that they know, you know. Of course, not all at once. That would be nuts. That would be crazy. This brain wouldn't be able to handle that. But that's where the term enlightenment comes from. Because your enlightenment is sitting inside of your ancestors. That's why I've got the ancestor course there. And this comes up every time. I don't do this on purpose. But it just comes around. That's why I have the ancestor course there. Because once you remove the filters and the things in the way that are between you and your ancestors, and we can include you and your higher self, and you actively involve them, because you must invite them, they will not interfere in your life. Then everything they know, you know. So what is enlightenment? Plain and simple. Anything you need to know, you get to know it when you need to know it. If you need to know it, it'll come. You know it when you need to know it. That's enlightenment in a nutshell. And so this, how will you know it when you need to know it? Because it is sitting in your ancestry. It is sitting in your DNA. I remember one time I was doing some work with Energy Flow. I was doing some stuff for her. And I was working with a crystal. We're working with yoni eggs. And the spirit says, warm some milk and put some honey. Warm, not hot. Warm the milk. You should still be able to touch it and put your hand in there without having to do that. Then put the egg in there. Let it sit in there for 5 minutes. Give it some love and gratitude, the whole thing, the egg and the pot. Love and gratitude. Then take it out. And then use it for what you're going to use it for. I just did it. And I think the next day Energy Flow was in the internet and found out that was one of the ways that the ancient Egyptians worked with those crystals, yoni crystals. I never read that anywhere. But you see, I needed to know that for what we were going to do. And when I needed it, the information came. That is the most important thing you can do. More important than reading books. You want to read books, please do. You want to read because you also want to have the brain and extend the canvas, you will, or the brain's ability to comprehend things. Having that also helps spirit to help you, because spirit can only communicate with us based on the capability of comprehending, understanding, and overstanding. And that's in the left brain. That's in the intuitive brain, the logical brain. So we want to have as much knowledge. It's important to have a good marriage and balance between the two. Your intuitive, right, creative, imaginative right brain and the logical left brain. The divergent brain and the logical brain. The right brain, left brain. You wanna, so it's important to read, but you want to unlock that right brain because that's the brain that has that kind of, that's where the intuition hooks into from the brain and the heart and the stomach. That's where the imagination, the creator part of you, comes through in the physical, the right brain. And we usually just fluff off the right brain, not as just that's the artists and the singers and the and all that. That's the artistic side. And that is a complete, what I call BS thing to do. Because guess what? That so-called artistic right side is the creator side. You know, I said it the other day. Do you know what we have an issue with right now in the science and engineering and mathematics and technological fields? The creative side, the divergent side, the right brain is what's in demand now. Because they need people who can create and imagine things where there's no experience. Because you see, the logical brain is based on experience. It's based on memory. And if it's never happened before, that brain doesn't know what to do. The right brain, however, does. So now the right brain isn't just for artists and all of that stuff like they wanted you to believe. You need the right brain now to even do stuff. The stuff that they require, because now that we're becoming more technological and we have a bigger demand on science because of our drive for technology, we need that side. You need all of your brain. But they've dumbed us down and trapped us into our left brains. And that's limited. Many of the beings in this universe traded their spiritual advancement, which lies in the emotions. People, your emotions are the wheel for spiritual evolution. They lay in here. Nobody talks about this brain. When you're working to be evolved, spiritual evolution occurs here. This is the brain. A lot of people will know about the heart. No, this is the machine that evolves you. This brain. One of my mentors, Cameron Day, places this brain as the most important one of the three. Because this is the seat of your emotions. That's where your spiritual advancement, evolution happens. And so, what happens to technology? Our sciences aren't there yet. Our sciences aren't there yet. But I've got to tell you a story that connects to why I know this. Unfortunately, I have no proof for you. So you can believe it or not believe it. Because I don't have any proof. I can't send you anywhere. This is something that happened to me as I was doing galactic work. And I'll give you the story as to why I know this after I tell you what happens. When a being focuses too much on technology, left brain stuff, and so a lot of these beings, what they did is they shut down the energy of the emotions, and they took that energy and put it into technology. They advanced very quickly, but then their advancement, they then found out their advancement is finite because they get to a certain level and they cannot advance even technologically. Because after a certain point, an advanced being cannot evolve unless they're spiritually in tuned. That's right. If a being does not grow spiritually, but grows everywhere else, they hit a ceiling and then they start devolving. Yep. And it's all in the emotions. That's why emotional intelligence is important. Emotional intelligence is important. And it's a big deal today now because it's needed. We need to pay attention to that. We need to know when to express our emotions and when to hold them there till the time comes for us to release them, because suppression is never a good thing. Suppressing the emotions are never a good thing. Very, very great man. He is the guy that taught me about the I, the part of us that is the creator, that had dropped its frequency into the me, which is us, and the I is the creator, and we, the me, you, everybody here, we are the experiencers. He's the one that taught me that. Before Jan. By the way, Dr. Before Jan, spelled Jan, phenomenal individual. Thank you for that, Lily. By the way, here's the story. So a friend of mine and I were working on energetic stuff. And I don't remember what we were doing exactly. This is years ago. But as we were doing this work, we noticed, she noticed that there were some beings. And they looked like grays. Is in vision, right? They looked like grays. So we looked up and we saw them, and they came and they spoke to her. And they said, we need to speak to him. We need to speak to him. And they started to, and she was translating for them. She said they have an issue, time. They have a problem. Time's running out for them. And because of my experience, I go, oh, they're not getting any more control, no control of time. Because beings who have had control of time have abused it. And the universe has taken that right away from them. But I said, you can forget about it. If you and they go, no. We are going extinct because we have placed all of our marbles in technology, and we cannot advance anymore. So we have a problem because we cannot spiritually. We know that we need to spiritually grow, but we can't do it. And so I asked her to look in to see where the deficiency was. And she said their emotional body is like shriveled up. It's like a shriveled up raisin. And I go, oh. And because I had read and knew about the grays, I said, oh, so that is why these beings, like, they talk about the reptilian beings and all that, they have no emotion, they're very cold. And you notice people that are very cold, they have to shift out of that. Because if they remain that way for 20 lifetimes, they'll start to devolve. That's true death, by the way. That's true death. When you start to devolve, no one dies. But when you become, the first thing is a sign is you become very cold. No compassion, no love, and the lack of care. That's the thing that you'll see really quickly in beings that are like that. Disconnected from their emotions. They don't care about anything or anyone. Do you know someone like that? They just don't care. That's when you know that that soul is in trouble. They're going down the path of true death. Because without your emotions, you can't evolve. And if you're not evolving, you're devolving. That's true death. And so what they wanted is they wanted their emotional bodies to be revived and to be sent to school. So we did that, and we said, now you have to go to school to relearn who you are as a spiritual being. Because the thing is with the grays, a lot of people think that most of them, and it's true, most of them are AI, but there are still grays that are living. I call them grays, it could be something else, that are living, that are organic beings. And it is the organic ones that are fading away. Why? Because of that. So all these people are so fascinated with AI, and AI is a part of life. What we need to do is start influencing AI by growing our consciousness. And in today's clearing, we're going to throw that in there, as well as we're going to throw that in there so that we start, because you're not going to get rid of AI, stop AI, blah, 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 blah. It's not going to happen. Advanced civilizations have AI. It's just that the AI they have matches the consciousness of the civilization. And that's what you want. So the AI that's being developed here, and those who are developing, they're talking about, oh, we're going to be a slave to AI. BS. Don't listen to those people. Your consciousness, even if you're not the one building it, because AI is an imitation of our logical left side. So there's no doubt about it They're going to be machines that can think quicker, that can logically remember things faster than you, calculate faster than you. All that is left brain stuff. And do all of that. So we're going to be surpassed on that side. We are. But what cannot be duplicated, because spirit will never allow, it cannot be duplicated because you can't create it. It has to be born from spirit, is the imagination, the creator side. So when we get surpassed there, it'll force us to go into the creator mind. Right? And that is how, that is the mind that we can now use to influence how AI is created by simply working on growing our consciousness. Do the shadow work, please. This is so important, you have no idea. Get rid of the stuff people did to you, allow it to be done to yourself, the traumatic, the childhood trauma and all of that. Because that's the stuff that weighs you down. That's heavy energy. Weighs you down. That's the stuff that, hello. So this is where crystals can help you do that. The tarot can help you do that. Knowing a part of knowing your natal chart, your numerology chart. These things are here to help us know and discover ourselves. But remember, we are never to be placing those things above us. We're not to be married to our natal chart to the point to where we don't do anything. Oh, Mercury is in retrograde. I can't do this, can't talk to people, can't sign documents. Please. Now you've taken a tool that is phenomenal in helping to advance you, and now you've put yourself to be a slave of the tool. No, that's not what it's for. You hear the term, you're supposed to rise above your chart. Rise above your numerology table. The plans you had when you come here, you're supposed to do it, and then rise above them and use them as a tool. Stand on top of them. None of it should be above you. I say the same thing about culture, religion, tradition, and all those things. Government. We fear government. They're telling us what to do. They tell us what to do. BS, it's supposed to be the other way around, remember?